Yuya was a fat, disgusting, ugly loner that was outcasted by society and bullied even by his own family. After losing the last ray of hope in his life, he accidentally entered a door to another world and unlocked a cheat leveling system. Before he knew it, he had become the hottest guy in his school and awakened secret abilities that allowed him to defeat all of his bullies and save the girl he's always wanted to save. The first time he found that hot girl was in the corner of an alley, and she was about to have a train ran on her. But Yuya built up the courage and asked the men to stop bullying her like a beta. When they heard those words coming from his disgusting face, the men beat him up and knocked him out in front of the girl he wanted to impress. The police came to run the thugs away, but as the girl tried to make sure Yuya wasn't injured, he got up and left the scene. Throughout his life, this type of treatment was something he had become accustomed to. All the kids bullied him for being overweight, and he couldn't even find shelter at home since his parents would bully him there as well. He wished for things to get better, but in middle school, the bullying severely escalated. It was at that time his grandpa was hit by truck-kun and got isekai'd. But before that, he left all his fortune in Yuya's name. When his parents discovered they couldn't steal his fortune away, they walked out on their own son, leaving him to work part-time jobs just to scrape by. And so the years went on. Everyone had enjoyed their middle school graduation, but Yuya's notebook was filled with threats and insults. He tried running away before the bullies caught up to him. But before he could escape, they reached him first and kicked him down, beating him up in front of everyone. Even his brother and sister watched, and they enjoyed seeing their fat brother being beat up. He tried getting up to make it to work, but since he was so late, his boss fired him, crushing his entire spirit. He was devastated, and with the last of his money, the only thing he could afford to eat was some ramen. But his cold reflection stared back at him. It was the same sight he saw in the mirror, a fat, ugly man with a black eye. And the sight of his pathetic face enraged him enough to crush the mirror. With a bloodied fist, he wondered why nothing was going to change in his life and kept pounding the wall. However, a mysterious door twisted open. The room before him was dark and it was filled with mysterious and magical-looking objects. In the center of it was a mysterious door, and as he opened it, a system message appeared before his eyes, granting him skills for entering a different world. Among one of the abilities was the skill to convert game objects into something useful, and he wondered what that useful item could be. But before he could find out, he decided to assess his skill levels. All of them were level 1, giving him the worst starting point possible. Still, he looked outside and saw the beautiful world that awaited him, and on the table, he saw a note written in a different language. The system notification popped up, granting him the ability to read the language from the other world. The previous owner had left everything in this house for whoever entered it next, and the house was enchanted with a magical spell to protect it from any invaders. As he kept exploring, he stumbled on an overpowered sword and decided to give it a test drive. He exited the house for the first time and was overcome with excitement to try out the weapon. But he slipped and fell and almost isekai'd himself. The status window popped up once again, granting him the swordsmanship skill which surprised him. But the sword wasn't enough, so he decided to overcompensate for his plot and try an actual long lance, become the Grim Reaper, and even erase half the Earth's population like he's Thanos. He even wielded the bow and became the bone of his sword. He wondered how all of these overpowered weapons were crafted and left here. Still, he needed more copium after all the bullying, so the status window gifted him with the true martial arts ability. With the time getting really late, he stored all of his legendary weapons into his void box to train again tomorrow. But a giant red ogre rushed forward with blinding speed to try and end him. The magical gate stopped the ogre from moving, but Yuya was able to use his assess skill to find that it was a level 300 ogre. After a bunch of attempts, it picked up an entire tree, but even that wasn't enough to break down the barrier. Yuya knew he was safe behind the fence, so he built up the courage to try and use the spear like he's trained for this entire day. He struggled to carry it, but with a strong stance, he launched the spear towards the ogre. And before his eyes, a void was created where the ogre's stomach once was, and the ogre fell to the ground. Seeing this, the adrenaline in his body faded and he collapsed, realizing that he'd managed to actually defeat the monster in his way. While in disbelief, the status window flashed once more and promoted him all the way to level 100 instantly. He got up and went to investigate the corpse of the ogre and collected all the rare loot that was dropped by him. After a hard day of work, he decided to head back to his home. But his status window popped up one last time and asked him to convert the items he's acquired into useful objects. Yuya gave it a shot, and thousands of dollars fell onto the floor in front of him. But that wasn't the end, because while he slept that night, his body ached painfully as it began transforming. and every single neuron in his body had changed that night. In the morning, Yuya woke up with a ripped six-pack and thought he was still dreaming. He no longer had an Asian persuasion, and noticed something weird about his face, but the mirror was broken so he couldn't find out how he looked now. Using the spare change left over by the sage, he changed his outfit, and explored the nearby forest to find mysterious fruit. Using his agricultural expertise, he grew the plants inside his backyard and assessed them to find that they could cure any disease in this world and increase his stats significantly. While he studied the plants, a giant slime appeared, but Yuya casually pulled out his weapon from the void box and threw his spear towards it, ending it in an instant. The usual items dropped, but a legendary necklace had fallen among them and he wore it to become even more of a Giga Chad. With the rest of the items, he converted it to a few $1,000s and bought some new clothes. As days passed, he became accustomed to this new world and gradually increased his level throughout summer break. He continued training his agility and martial arts skill until he became stronger than he ever was. While walking through the fields one day, he noticed a goblin hiding in plain sight that was ready to end him. But with all of his agility training, he was able to easily maneuver his body to evade all of the attacks and end the goblin instantly. While he's become overpowered in this world, he fears the idea of getting bullied all over again tomorrow in high school. While walking the next day, all of the students are shocked by his beauty, but Yuya thinks they're all talking about the person walking behind him. He takes his seat at class, and his bullies come up to him and ask him if he's a new transfer student. However, he reveals that he's actually Yuya, shocking the entire class and even his siblings. His bullies think there's no way this hot guy is the ugly pig, but he begs them to believe him. Bewildered by everyone's reaction, Yuya runs to the bathroom and screams, realizing that he's become the biggest Giga Chad in this school. At the end of the school day, his bullies ask him how he transformed his body and somehow got taller, and his siblings call him a worthless being who will never outclass them. As they degrade their younger brother, a limousine comes and a girl with red eyes exits, glad to have finally found him after all this time. She tells him she's been looking for him since the men bullied her because she wants to suck his dick. Sorry, I meant she wanted to thank him, and has personally investigated him to track down his location, and the amount of sperm cells inside of him at a given time.
What? What the fuck?
His siblings think she's crazy, but notice that she's wearing the outfit from Ausei Academy, one of the most prestigious schools in Japan. The girl introduces herself as Kaori, and tells him that she wants to invite him to her school since she's part of the student council and her father is the chairman. Yuya is incredibly grateful for the offer, but his brother interrupts him and begs her to let him attend the school instead of his inferior younger brother. His sister also begs her to enter, but Kaori declines and rejects the idea of accepting anyone who insulted Yuya. She's investigated everything they've done to Yuya, so there's no chance she'd let them in. This crushes them, and Kaori tells Yuya that even if his academics may be weak, it's the strength of his character that matters at this academy. She grabs his hand and drags him to show him around the new school, leaving his siblings in despair and anger. At the Ausei Academy, everyone is a genius. Whether it be through athletics or science, everyone surpasses expectations while attending here. Yuya enters the gates of the school and the principal, Kaori's father, welcomes him to their school and thanks him for saving his daughter. He congratulates him on having such a strong character and gets straight to the point. To thank him for his great courage, he wants him to enroll in their school and pay for all of his tuition. Yuya hesitates because he doesn't think he's a genius like the rest of the people here, but the chairman explains that a genius is a person who is able to focus their efforts faster than others. Everyone may have talents, but at their age, they're too young to discover all of their talents. It's the chairman's wish that everyone challenges themselves while they're here, and asks Yuya to just take his time and face himself for once. If Yuya is still unsure about this academy, then he can try attending the school just for today. The principal brings in the big guns. I mean really big guns. Giant plot teacher enters the chat, and she will allow him to attend her anatomy class and give him a hands-on lesson. Yuya thinks this is the best day of his life. He waits outside of her class and wonders how he's going to develop plot with his teacher in front of all of the students. He worries that all the guys might get angry, but if they all run a train on the teacher together, then it should be fine. The teacher tells Yuya to come inside already. Yuya climaxes inside his pants, and while introducing himself, he does everything in his power to hide the stain he created. All the students have noticed the stain, however, and Yuya realizes it's already over for him. However, all the girls think they want to taste his white cream, and even the guy decides to swing the other way for a day. What the f*** is going on right now? The teacher gets clapped. Sorry, I meant the teacher claps her hands and tells Yuya to sit already so they can begin class. She opens the textbook and tells the students to begin preparing to study. Since Yuya doesn't have a textbook, she asks the girl sitting next to him to share hers. Instantly, the girl moves right next to him and says hello nervously. Throughout the day, he realizes that this is the first time he's ever been in an academy where the people actually cared about learning rather than bullying him. After class, all the girls and guys come to ask about Yuya's background. They wonder if he already has a girlfriend, but a guy comes to break all the commotion and tells them to leave Yuya alone so he can eat his lunch already. The guy apologizes on behalf of his classmates and introduces himself as Ryo. This is the first time a handsome person has ever been kind to Yuya, and they go together to enjoy some lunch. At this school, all the food is prepared by 5-star chefs and all of the meals are under $5. Of course, the Fatzo thinks that this is paradise. He gets lunch and Ryo goes to sit with his friend Shingo, and he introduces himself to Yuya. Ryo and Shingo geek out over the new anti-climax video, and Shingo dropped a like on the video because he's a legendary plot master. While eating the food, Yuya notices that everyone is staring at him, and Ryo says that it's because of his hot face. After a long day of enjoying his time with the new students, he sat with the principal who asked him what he thought about the school. Yuya thought it was extremely kind from all the students to treat him so nicely, but he's not sure if someone like him belongs in this academy. The principal tells him that his worth is something decided by himself and by others, and in his opinion, Yuya is worthy of attending this academy. Yuya holds back his tears and thanks the principal for his advice and wishes to continue attending. After he left, Yuya noticed that Kaori was waiting outside the door, and she asked him if he would like to go out shopping with her. Most students come here after school, but Kaori hasn't ever come with anyone else due to her father's position. However, she's been wanting to come with him this entire time, and the simp climaxes when he hears that. He hides his protein shake inside a cream bun, and Kaori eats his white creamy liquid. Yuya wonders how Kaori knew it was him since he looked so different from the time they first saw one another, and she tells him that she's never forgotten his eyes. Even though he may have slimmed, his kind eyes haven't changed, and Yuya climaxes. Kaori is angry she didn't get to taste it, and tells him to make it up for her by calling her by her first name instead of formally saying her last name. The simp climaxes again, and calls Kaori by her first name, making her happy. She hands him her meaty stick and tells him to take a bite of the white murky liquid. Yuya bites her strawberry cream pie, and Kaori realizes what a strawberry cream pie means, apologizing for the way she worded it. Everyone looks at her like she's a creep, so Yuya offers to give her his meaty stick and tells her to eat his white sticky cream. Kaori bends over the table to eat his creamy stick in front of everyone. After releasing the liquid he built up all summer, Yuya went back to the other world to continue his leveling before he gets busy with school. He gears up in the overpowered armor and heads off for his new adventure. He may still be afraid of the monsters, but his persistent training has allowed him to build courage to continue fighting. He's now level 235 and knows he must venture outside of the fence in order to level up faster. He takes his first step outside, but instantly hears people screaming in the distance. He rushes towards the source of the sound and finds tens of soldiers who have been defeated, along with a goblin with overpowered stats. But behind the goblin, Yuya sees a girl who is terrified, so he rushes forward and throws his spear towards the goblin. As the goblin gets distracted, Yuya falls from the sky to crush the goblin beneath him and sees the girl, but she screams at him to watch out from behind. A goblin nearly ends him, but Yuya evades in the last instant. He tries to parry the attack, but the blunt force sends him launching towards the tree. His consciousness begins to fade, but he tries to continue battling with the skills he has and rushes at blinding speed. He uses his lance to pole vault over the goblin, and then takes out his arrow to send a rain of bullets against the monster. He sees the girl, but as he arrives, the girl passes out. The next morning, Yuya wonders if that girl was alright after he left, but knows that the rest of the soldiers came to save her. While ironing his shirt, he realizes that he's been wearing the same Peter Griffin shirt every single day, so he decides to go shopping now that he's rich with all the drops. At the mall, Yuya takes the escalator and all the girls stare at him. He continues walking around and notices everyone eyeing him, so he tries to run to quickly take care of things. On the other side of the mall, a photo shoot manager yells at his employees because they've been waiting all morning for the boy model. They need a guy to be Miu's boyfriend for the shoot, and the manager apologizes for keeping her waiting all day. His anger grows, and he decides to resort to his last method, finding a random hot guy in the mall to be in their photo shoot. At the store, Yuya's noticed he's never bought clothes in years and thinks it's a lost cause. Two girls approach him and ask him if he could develop plot with them at the same time. Yuya wonders what type of story they're talking about, and they tell him that they can make him experience the rising action and climax all over them before experiencing the falling action. They're excited for him to write a novel on their faces with all the ink coming out of his pen. But Yuya apologizes because he's not interested in their religion and wants to remain an anime protagonist. He leaves and wonders if he treated them right, but both of them have already climaxed. As he heads down, the manager sees Yuya and thinks he's found the man of his dreams. He comes behind him and grabs him to start taking photos with the model. Yuya wonders how things ended up this way, and remembers the manager explaining the whole situation to him. He spends his entire afternoon doing the photo shoot with Miu, but being so close next to a girl gives him a hard time in more ways than one. Miu realizes and tells him that she'll take care of him since it's his first time, so she gets on her knees and sorry, I meant she thanked him for saving her, and Yuya finally sees the giant cannons pushing up on him. The manager tells them to change positions, and Yuya realizes that Miu is amazing. She's the same age as him, but she's been working so hard so he knows that he can't be a burden on her. Miu comes closer to him and grabs him, giving Yuya a really hard time. She hugs onto Yuya and engages her laser blasters at full throttle, making Yuya climax for the 40th time today. This poor dude's going to have a heart attack. Meanwhile, in the other world, the girl wonders who the man who saved her was, and becomes determined to uncover his identity. She tells the guards that she's going into the forest to find the person who saved her. As a member of the royal family, she wants to express her gratitude to him by royally Sorry, I don't know what's going on with the script today. The plot inside of me is rising until it climaxes. Please help me by spamming RIP Yuya. He died before developing plot. The fake fans will never expect it. Back at the mall, everyone is watching Yuya as he does the modeling, but he's exhausted after all the work. The assistant hands him a drink that he uses to rehydrate, but Miu tells him that she's implanted her plot fluids in the drink, causing Yuya to choke. She laughs and hands him her plot armor so he can wipe it off, but Yuya thinks that his nose will start bleeding. As they sit together, Yuya tells her that she's really amazing for having the energy to deal with this every single day. He's never even worn clothes like this since his life has no connection to fashion, and seeing this world has really opened his eyes. Even though everything looks dazzling at first, he's noticed how hard everyone works behind the scenes to create their finished project, so he wonders why Miu ever wanted to become a model. She might not know the answer herself, but deep inside, she tells him that she's always wanted to be seen. Her parents were always busy, so she wished for them to see her, and she began having fans and appearing in magazines. She was happy to be acknowledged by people. Basically, she's an attention whore. She goes on to say that it would be nice if others were inspired by her, and believes that if Yuya were to take every moment and enjoys it to the fullest, then it would make his future better. Yuya laughs at her statement, and as they keep talking, the manager takes photos to capture a realistic version of a couple. However, a man comes from the crowd, and all the girls recognize him instantly. His name is Shu, and everyone thinks he's the hottest guy alive. With a single wave of his hand, all the women's floodgates are released. He's the guy who was supposed to do the photo shoot with Miu, and he gets down and tells her to wrap up this silly photo shoot quickly so they could go on a date. Miu tells him to wait, but he bangs against the wall and asks her why she ignored him the other day in public. Yuya tries to step in and tells him to get off Miu. Shu is angered that Yuya's interfering and steps on the plot armor. As he swung, Yuya adjusted his footwork and threw him onto the ground in front of everyone. But he's realized that everyone will likely start yelling at him for beating up the hot guy. However, the girls basically become Niagara Falls for Yuya and think that Shu is lame. The manager comes up to Shu, telling him that they caught the entire thing on tape and will release it to everyone if he continues to bother Miu. He runs away, and the manager is glad that he was able to get rid of him as he's been constantly causing Miu trouble. Since he's gone now, the manager offers Yuya to take his position since he's such a great model. But Yuya apologizes. He's enjoyed every bit of today, but has realized that he could never be a model with all of the dedication it takes. The manager respects his honesty and responsibility, so he hands him his payment for today. Since he's not their employee and they can't pay him with cash, the manager hand-picked him clothes that would look amazing on him. Yuya tries to reject, but the manager insists that he takes the payment since this is how the world works. Inside the manager's car, Miu reminisces on her events today and all the photos she took with him, and the manager makes fun of her for crushing over Yuya. Back in the other world, Yuya is glad to have gotten all the clothes to dress like a real Chad, but decides it's time to train once more. Inside the forest, the soldiers are once again battling for their lives, and a giant orc comes from behind ready to end the princess. In the last moment, Yuya destroys the monster and saves her, and goes on to destroy every single enemy in his way in the most Giga Chad manner. After he's defeated all the enemies, Yuya heals the fallen soldiers and the princess comes up to him. She says that she's traveled all this way because she wants to say something to him. She wants to royally. Her guards warn her to keep her position in mind since this guy could be a bandit for all they know, but she yells at them and says it was love at first sight. Yuya has no idea what any of these guys are taking, so he asks them to come over to his house. While going inside, the guard is surprised he can live inside the forest somehow, and introduces himself as Owen. The girl finally introduces herself. She's the princess of the kingdom of Arcelia, and her name is Lexia. Yuya realizes that she's an actual princess, and the guard wonders what country Yuya might be from. The guard thinks he might be a spy, but Lexia thinks he's a royal, so he's going to be royally clapping her clapping her hands. I meant hands. The guard is jealous that he's been defeated, but tells Yuya that they've been looking for him this entire time. Since he rescued Lexia from nearly dying, she hasn't left a single log unturned just to find him, and has been doing everything in her power to feel his rough log. She begs him to marry her, but Yuya wouldn't want to suddenly marry a girl he's just met. Lexia understands that their love can't be so simple. After all, every romance novel has these challenges. Falling in love right away wouldn't be fun, she determines, so she asks him if he would like to just be friends for now. Yuya remembers all the times he'd wished for a friend, so he looks at her eyes and humbly accepts to be her friend. Owen is glad they were able to convey their gratitude. But there is one other matter. While Lexia's carriage was being taken away by the horses, she screamed that she will be waiting until the next time they meet. Before leaving, Owen informed Yuya that the king has invited him to his castle. Yuya accepts to meet the king, but wants some time to get ready. Owen understands they have been making unreasonable requests, so they will gladly wait until the day he's ready. Back inside the kingdom, a glass falls and breaks, and a bandit apologizes for not being able to assassinate the princess. The assassins he sent were all devoured by powerful monsters, but his leader wonders how Lexia is still alive if that was the case. The leader commands the bandit to try once more without failure. After he left, the leader took off his mask, swearing to take revenge for the damage Lexia's done to him. Inside of his home, Yuya writes down the day for meeting the king and realizes that today is the first day at his academy. He leaves the house and two girls think he's hot. On his way to school, everyone glares at his beauty and makes it difficult for him to blend in. The principal formally welcomes him to the school and tells him to enjoy his life here. Anatomy class is about to begin once again, but Yuya manages to keep it inside this time. During soccer, Ryo outclasses all the players on the field as he scores an incredible goal. Yuya is amazed by his pure skill, and a girl from behind thinks that Ryo's abilities are also amazing. But she asks Yuya if he's just watching alone. She introduces herself as Kaede, and Yuya has no idea what harem he's been reincarnated into. Ryo dribbles the ball past the players and passes it to Akira, who rushes forward to try and score the goal. But as he takes a shot, he completely misses and it heads towards Kaede's face. In an instant, Yuya graduates from Blue Lock and uses his supreme agility to shoot the ball from a tight angle and score the goal. All of the players are shocked, and he gets up like Prince Charming and approaches Kaede. He asks her if she's okay and offers his hand. She holds it and Akira comes begging for an apology, but Kaede tells him that she's fine because of Yuya. Ryo introduces Akira to him, and Akira thanks Yuya for saving both of them. Ryo calls him a cringe for begging Kaede to forgive him, and as they continue making fun of each other, Yuya starts laughing along with Kaede. Inside the plot armory, the girls think that Yuya is some secretive prince, and Kaori comes to ask what he did this time. Kaede comes to tell Kaori that Yuya jumped in midair and bent over to kick his ball into her face while she's bent over. Kaori wonders what this girl is taking, and Yukin says that she can hook her up if she ever wants to take a trip. All the girls geek out over how cool Yuya is and wonder if he's got a girlfriend. Kaori and Kaede both scream that he doesn't have one. But after screaming that, Kaori is shocked because she's recognized her feelings for him. During class, Yuya stares outside the window and sees Kaori waving at him, so he waves back. But just then, a group of bikers break through the gate and begin scaring all of the girls. They're the Tokyo Meijin. Sorry, wrong show. They're the Red Ogres, some of the most dangerous delinquents. Among them are Yuya's siblings, and they brought all the bikers here so they could mess Kaori up since she looked down on them. The leader commands the guys to grab her and go away, and Yuya realizes how bad this situation is and tries to save her. However, his legs tremble in fear. He may have fought stronger beasts in the other world, but the idea of going against his brother and sister sends fear into every bone in his body. The world begins twisting around him, but instead of faltering, he slaps his face to regain his cool and tells everyone he's going. He opens the window and jumps out. As soon as he lands, he rushes with blinding speed towards Araki, the person who bullied him his entire life. Araki commands the rest of his group to take care of him, but with blinding speed, Yuya dodges every single one of their attacks and knocks all their weapons away. Araki tries to take matters into his own hand, but just before the bat hits him, he flashes away to save Kaori. Before he could reach her, a giant sumo wrestler stands in his way and jumps towards Yuya. However, Yuya maintains his position and stops him from moving with just his bare hand, casting him like he's a mere toy. The rest of the delinquents walk away from him in fear, but before he could save Kaori, one of them readies up their bike and tries to run him over. Yuya evades the attacks and narrowly dodges the wheels, and as all hope seems to be lost, he jumps 30 feet into the sky like Spider-Man, leaving the biker to run into the building and explode his bicycle. The police finally arrive and arrest all of the delinquents. Yuya asks Kaori if she's okay after all that happened. She thanks him and says she's fine but begins fainting, so he hugs her close to make sure she's okay. Yuya's brother wonders how the red ogres were so useless, but their leader holds him by the neck and says he will end him for trapping them. His sister tries to stop him, but he kicks her off and she watches as her brother is begging for someone to help him. Yuya grabs onto the leader's arm and pushes him off, but the leader runs to beat up Yuya. With a single glance, Yuya sends the fear of God into every bone in his body, and everyone wonders how he just collapsed. While all the delinquents are being taken away, his brother wonders why he saved them after they've tormented him so much. Yuya says he can't forgive them for all the things they've done to him, but he will never abandon his family. Hearing those words crushes them, and they begin crying as they apologize to him, and Kaori watches all of it. A few days later, Yuya is ready to go out exploring once more. He remembers Owen warning him about the forest being the most dangerous place in all of the lands. The monsters lurking here have the ability to level an entire city, confusing Yuya about why the sage chose to live here. He spent his time hunting through the forest as always, but as he was about to leave, he heard a little puppy's bark. A giant orc was beating it up with a stick, and the puppy did everything it could to continue standing up. It was a level 600 king orc with an attack of 20,000, so Yuya decided it was too dangerous for him to try saving the puppy. The king orc continued stomping on the little puppy, and Yuya realized that his grandpa would have never left in this situation. He took out his spear from the void box and launched it to distract the orc, immediately rushing to attack it. However, the orc was already destroyed by his spear. He's embarrassed for being such a wuss, but remembers that he was able to defeat a level 300 ogre when he was just level 1, so he wonders who this sage was that created such powerful weapons. The puppy growls at him in fear, but Yuya takes out a healing potion and gives it to the dog after it collapses. All of the wounds are healed, and Yuya is glad to have saved it before it perished. The little dog starts licking him and Yuya asks him if he's lost. The dog nods his head no, so Yuya asks him if his parents are gone, and the dog sadly responds. Yuya goes on to ask if he would like to come to his place, and the dog gets excited and barks happily. A status window appears, and Yuya sees that the dog is level 500 with all stats at 10,000. Even though he's shocked, he decided to give a name to the little dog, and because of its dark fur, he names it Night, and the dog barks happily to hear its new name. Among all the rare equipment that were dropped, Yuya sees a hairbrush that is considered a daily necessity item, and begins brushing Night with it. While brushing his new puppy, he checks the status window and notices that his level hasn't went up still. It's been weeks since his last level up, and wonders if he will ever understand the leveling up system. He leaves his puppy the next day and tells his friends that he's going to a pet shop. Kaede bends over the table and engages her laser blasters in his face. Yuya climaxes and tells her that she's rubbing him the wrong way. Kaede backs off and says that she could go to the pet store with him since she's free after school. This is the second time anyone's wanted to go out with him, and Kaede wonders if this would be considered a date. After a long day, Yuya finally gets back home to a sad Night, but he shows him all the gifts he brought him. He spent all afternoon picking them out with a friend so Night can have a nice leash when they take walks. He wonders if it's uncomfortable, but Night nods his head no, so they both go out in a walk. The girls are still opening all their floodgates when they see him, and as he walks, he stumbles on Kaori at the park. She sees his dog, and Yuya introduces Night as a new part of his family. Kaori asks to pet him and thinks that he's the cutest dog she's ever seen. She wonders what breed he is, but Yuya panics since he just brought him home from the wilderness. Even though he may be wild, she realizes that Knight is an extremely smart dog, but a girl comes from behind and calls out Yuya's name. A wild Mew has appeared. Kaori wonders if she's the famous model, and Yuya's shadow introduces Mew to Kaori. Knight jumps up and barks hello, and all the people in the park are jealous of the attention he's getting. Mew asks him if he's going to keep taking walks here because she wants to keep seeing him. Kaori hears their conversation and the sadness inside of her continues growing. Mew eventually leaves and Kaori tries to ask if him and Mew are dating each other. Yuya tells her that they aren't because there's no way he's good enough for her, but Kaori yells at him, saying he's wrong. He realizes that something is weird about her reaction. But just then, an old man screams that a thief has stolen her purse. Yuya releases Knight to take care of him, which surprises Kaori, but he grabs her hand and drags her to the grandma to make sure she's okay. Knight comes back dragging the bandit, and Yuya asks Kaori to call the police. The bandit gets away from Knight when he hears their plans and begins running towards Kaori with a knife. But before he's about to end her, Yuya grabs his arm and uses his true martial arts skill to knock the bandit down, restraining him. The entire park is shocked by his abilities, and Kaori thanks him for saving her once again. At night, Yuya enters deeper into the forest to face stronger monsters in order to level up. He runs forward and jumps off a hill to destroy all the enemies standing in his way. Together with Knight, they're able to destroy even a bear, but a giant orc appears before them. Knight runs forward and evades all of the attacks coming his way, jumping to bite the orc's shoulder and knocking him down with a smack. The monster's body evaporates, and Yuya is glad to see Knight getting stronger. Deeper inside the forest, Yuya stumbles upon a dangerous monster and uses his invisibility right away. He assesses the deer and sees that it's a level 630, but the deer locates his position even with his invisibility active. It begins approaching him and starts running towards him. Knight tries to jump onto its horns to destroy them, but the deer activates his horn's ultimate ability to release fire. At the same time, it activates the Ice Horn's ultimate ability, releasing a massive wave of energy towards Yuya that he barely dodges. This is the strongest monster he's ever faced, so he commands Knight to try to distract it. In a flurry of speed, Knight begins jumping across the entire field, which forces the deer to activate all of its magical abilities at the same time. While it's on cooldown, Knight bites its neck, and Yuya sinks his spear deep into the deer. The deeper they go into the forest, the more they need to change their tactics, but Yuya thinks it's perfect for training. Yuya stares at the items the deer dropped and one of them catches him by surprise. It is a portable bath, so he decides to use the item. A portable bath materializes before his eyes. This is exactly the type of item Yuya's been wanting, so he decides to head home with Knight to try it out. They enjoy bathing in the hot tub. The next night, Yuya battles against Sonic the Hedgehog and is nearly defeated. It's over level 600, but he knows that it must have a weakness. The hedgehog readies another attack and Yuya's reflexes allow him to dodge away quickly. While it's stuck, Knight kicks it in deeper, and Yuya strikes towards the monster to finally end it. It's been weeks of this training, but he's only went up 5 levels, and Knight has only went up 10 levels. Before they head home, an entrance to the cave opens before their eyes. As they walk deeper into the cave, torches begin to light the way. Knight notices that a corpse is lying deep inside with a notebook next to it, titled The Book of the Sage. Yuya wonders if it's the same person who created his house, and begins reading the sentences that follow. I was able to do everything. Whether it was magic or martial arts, or even cooking, I mastered everything. As a result, I entered the realm of gods while I was still alive, and they invited me to join them, but I declined. The strength you possess now is more powerful than you can ever imagine. But people will come to one day hate you like they hated me. Yuya kept reading the sad story of the sage and wondered how he could avoid that loneliness. So the sage's voice responded in his head, telling him to build deep relationships with people he can trust. He continued reading the book and wondered how he could make more friends, but the sage's voice kept appearing in his head, and the book said it will grant him knowledge of one thing he wished to know. Yuya said he would like to know magic, and before his eyes, the book began to flash a golden hue, and the sage said it has become filled with everything he needed to know about magic. The sage went on to say that he can't use magic since he's from a different world. For people in this world, magic travels through the blood vessels and formulates their magical pathways. Since Yuya lacks these magical pathways, the sage will bestow his own magical pathways upon him. They are the most valuable pathways in this world, so he wishes for someone to carry them rather than having them just disappear. In exchange, he wishes for Yuya to hold his head high every day. The book's magical aura begins to overflow the entire cavern and swirls around until it strikes Yuya's chest. The sage's last wish is for Yuya's life to be filled with happiness and fortune. Yuya thanks the sage for his gift and wishes him a peaceful rest. Back at his home, Yuya spends the entire afternoon trying to learn the words written in the text. Months continue passing as Yuya meditates, envisioning the elements surrounding him until he's finally reached it. At that moment, he unlocked the magic manipulation skill and realizes he can finally access the sage's pathway. Might has also unlocked the same ability, and Yuya goes on to read that casting magic is pretty simple. He just needs to use his imagination. Inside his backyard, he raises his hand and tries to cast a water ball. A small sphere appeared before him, and Knight was able to successfully cast the spell as well. He wanted to discover how powerful his magic truly was, so they launched their water balls towards the trees. Before they knew it, all the trees in the surrounding area collapsed. Inside the king's castle, the king asks the soldier if they were able to locate the boy who saved his daughter. The soldier is glad that they were able to find him, but wishes for the king to be lenient on his daughter who proposed marrying the strange man. The king wonders what he just said, but the soldier tries to say that he didn't say anything. The king gets his sword and destroys the entire palace, wondering how a person could try to steal his darling daughter away. At school the next day, Yuya continues pondering about the words written inside the sage's book, telling him to be careful of using magic in the other world. Today, the teacher informs everyone that they will be studying off campus next week. For 2 nights, they will be camping, and the teacher goes on to announce the teams. Kaede is glad that she was able to join Yuya's team, and Akira comes up and bestows his noble elegance upon them. However, harem member number 4 enters the chat and introduces herself as Rin. Yuya tries to nervously introduce himself, but she thinks it's no wonder everyone's infatuated with him, unlike the weirdo over there. Kaede is excited for the time they're going to spend together, but Yuya doesn't have any of the necessary equipment to travel around. Kaede suggests that they all go shopping together. They head to the mall, and Kaori thanks them for inviting her along. Shingo thinks today will be a long day in more ways than one, and Ryo is shocked that Yuya managed to become friends with Kaori. She's the daughter of the chairman, so she's unapproachable, but Kaori hopes that they could treat her like a normal friend instead. They head inside to the mall and Kaori suggests a backpack for them to take out. Ryo and Shingo wish they were that bag because no girls ever picked them before. After a nice long day of shopping, the guys want to go to an arcade, and Shingo is an idle simp, so Yuya does his best to try and get his friend the prize. He's never played one of these crane scams, but his heightened perception level from all his training allows him to spot the perfect angle, and with a single try, he is able to win the reward and impress all of his friends. Kaede drags him to get a cat for her, so he spends the rest of the day getting all of his friends the gifts they've always wanted. This is the first time he's ever done something that made others happy, and Kaori thanks him for being amazing like always. A few hours later, Ryo suggests they go have some tea, but the girls decide they will split up and go to the 13th floor to shop for some girl clothes. While they're shopping, a wire that's been chewed begins to spark. Ryo and the rest of the guys enjoy their drink. Shingo asks Yuya if something is off, but Yuya says it's just so much fun spending his time with friends and laughing the entire time. Just as he let those words out, the fire alarm went off and the announcer said that the upper floors were on fire. Yuya runs to try and go upstairs, but the management tells him that he should be just vacating instead. Ryo gets a call from Kaede and the others, and her voice struggles to breathe as she apologizes for not being able to get out in time. Ryo tells him what she just said, and Yuya jumps over the security to run upstairs. His friends are pushed downstairs by the security, and Yuya continues running to try and reach the girls. He makes it to the 13th floor and sees that the sprinklers have no chance of keeping up with the fire, so he activates his magical ability to try and save them. He envisions water and air surrounding his body and enveloping him. He runs straight towards the fire and tries to find the passed out girls. Inside the bathroom, all 3 of them have went unconscious from all the heat, and Yuya runs faster than he's ever ran to try and reach them. He screams Kaori's name, waking her up for a second as she sees him running towards her. He manages to make it just in time and wonders if anybody else was trapped by this fire. With his awareness ability, he determines that everyone else has managed to evacuate already, so he carries the 3 girls and covers all of them with water. He runs to the entrance he came from, but finds that all the debris has blocked it off. The charm he won for Kaori falls, but he has no time to worry about that. There's only one option left, so Yuya summons every ounce of strength in his body for his next move. and destroys the floor like a falling meteor. His friends see that he's managed to make it out and run to make sure he's okay. Even Yuya himself was shocked that he managed to make it out alive. His friends yell at him for being so crazy to run into the fire, and the firefighters lecture him for his actions. Kaori's father came rushing in and thanked Yuya for saving everyone, but they found it a mystery how he was able to save all of them. Yuya handed Kaori the charm he won for her, and she began crying while hugging her dad. He walked home that day, and the image of Kaori hugging her dad couldn't leave his mind. He wondered if this is how a family was supposed to act, but when he came home, Knight ran up to him and hugged him tightly. After learning that magic is just the materialization of one's thoughts, Yuya decides to focus really hard on where he wants to go. Before his eyes, a light flashes that sends him deep inside the forest. By imagining the place he's traveled to, he is able to use magic to teleport, which will allow him to feed Knight even while he's on the field trip. Together, they head inside a cave and spot a couple of goblins. Immediately, Yuya unsheathed his sword and destroyed all of them with a single blow. The drops were filled with rare equipment and overpowered properties, so Yuya stored all of them and decided to begin heading home. On their way back, Knight began strangely running away. As Yuya chased him, Knight barked at him, and Yuya understood that it meant he needed to hide. He activated his invisibility and noticed a girl with a wounded shoulder, surrounded by tens of goblins. But as Yuya began rushing in, Knight restrained him. Yuya wondered why he's acting strange, and a giant beast struck towards the tree, splicing it in half. However, the girl had disappeared and fell from above, slicing his arm off. Yuya wonders what he just witnessed, and the three goblins jump towards the girl, but she managed to fend them off with her strings. However, her defense was compromised, and a fourth goblin rushed forward to kick her towards the tree. While she was unconscious, the goblins were about to turn this show into Goblin Slayer, but Yuya jumped from above in the last moment and ended them. The battle was not over, and hundreds of goblins appeared from the shadows. There was only one option, so Yuya pulled out a secret weapon and used his Divine Whip. With a single swing, the Divine Whip split off in tens of directions to annihilate all of the enemies. The sun began setting, so Yuya carried the girl to his home before it was dark. But Knight growled angrily. The girl began waking up and tried kicking Yuya off her, but she ended up falling and smacking the back of her head. Seeing her pain, Yuya tried handing her a cure-all potion. Instantly, all her wounds began healing. He introduced himself and tried introducing his puppy, but Knight continued growling. Luna introduced herself, and Yuya asked her why she was in such a dangerous place alone. She came up with the excuse that she was just training, but she messed up and got ambushed by the goblins. Attempting to change the topic, she asked him why he's in the dangerous parts of the forest, and Yuya struggles to say that he's also just training. Luna is surprised someone actually trains here, but says she's glad they're both here for the same thing, and it's not like she was doing anything suspicious at all or anything like that. She thanks him for carrying her away when she was so filthy, and wishes there was a place to clean before heading to town, so Yuya asks her if she would like to take a bath. Bath plot develops. She wonders how Yuya managed to get such a rare item, so he reveals that he got it from a crystal deer. She's never heard of a person strong enough to defeat one, and now understands why he trains in these areas. Luna tries to reveal that she came here on a customer's request, but Yuya didn't hear anything, so she pretends like she wasn't talking. A thought enters her mind, and she asks if Yuya would be able to train with her since it would keep both of them safer. Realizing that she's going to just risk her life alone, Yuya decides to stick with her so he can protect her. Excited by hearing this, she comes out of the curtains and tells him he should start getting used to seeing her like this so he can penetrate her defenses with his sword.
What do you mean by that?
Knight thinks back to the days where he used to be an alpha getting all the women, and goes to sleep because he no longer has to deal with the headaches. The next morning, Yuya trains with Luna, and Knight rushes from behind to support them. Their training goes on like this for a few more days, and they share their experiences together, growing stronger through each battle. Their coordination increases as he redirects a goblin towards Luna to chop his arm off, leaving it for Knight to strike him down. Yuya is glad to have such a strong partner, but she tries to humbly say that it was all thanks to his skill with Knight. But Yuya's always thought she was strong with her threads ever since they met. Still, Luna says she needs to become stronger before completing her mission. He's surprised to meet such a passionate woman, however, they won't be able to train for a while. She wonders why but apologizes for asking since she's known this day would always come, thanking him for all the time he's spent with her. With the night approaching, Yuya thanks her as well, and Luna promises to give it her all before their last bath. At night, Yuya takes the bath at first and wonders why they changed their usual order. From behind him, Luna comes to explain that they will be doing it together.
Yeah, boy.
She climbs inside and hugs him, thanking him for helping her when she was so selfish. Because of him, she was able to grow, and he has saved her. Yuya wonders what she means by saving her, and she says that this is the first time in years that she's seen a brighter world. And these moments are valuable treasure for her, so she will wash his back for him. She gets up and Yuya climaxes, telling her that the white stuff inside the bathtub is just the shampoo. She looks at it and realizes what it actually is, and Knight is glad he doesn't have to deal with any headaches. On the bus to the trip, Yuya plays cards with his friends and yawns. After a long night of plot development, he struggles to stay awake but manages to win every single card game. After a while, he tries to sleep on the bus, wondering if his extremely high luck stats are the reason for winning all of the games. Even though it's not on purpose, he feels like it's cheating. Yuya wonders if this cheat skill is also the reason he was able to cop Luna, but thinks that it's not possible. After a long journey, they finally arrive and the girls wake him up. The teacher immediately tells everyone to get ready and explains the situation. They're going to be camping on their own for 2 nights and must gather food from the forest and lake on their own. Kaede wonders if it's dangerous to judge wild food without any experience, so the teacher says that they will let them know if things are safe, and even if they get poisoned, the nurse will cure them. A suspicious woman comes and tells them not to worry, because with her miracle elixir, she will heal all of them. Akira thinks that they might as well just starve for a day, but the teacher reveals that he would be losing the competition. Wondering what this competition is, Yuya asks the teacher, who tells him that their teachers will get a raise depending on their performance. To top that all off, they must sleep inside the forest because this hotel is just for the teachers. Deep in the forest, Yuya and his team try to figure out how to put up a tent. Akira thinks that his elegant skills will allow him to fish as easy as pie.
You're a victim!
She tells Yuya and Kaede to go fishing, and Akira is depressed that everyone treats him like trash, but they've already left the side character behind. At the river, all the students have gathered to fish. Kaede wonders what they could do with everyone taking all the fish, but Yuya thinks he has a better idea. He heads to a desolate spot and Kaede sees all the fish, but wonders how they're going to be fishing in shallow waters. Yuya picks up his pants and looks at the fish, remembering the things Luna taught him. Since monsters are living things, they will be afraid of humans, making their movements predictable. Yuya uses this to his advantage, reading the movements of the fish and striking towards the water, catching it with his bare hands. After a while of fishing and showing off, all of the guys wonder how many hours he's spent playing Valorant to get these reflexes. Before he knew it, the entire bucket was filled with fish, and he wishes he could thank Luna for teaching him this. Back in the other world, inside a shop filled with dolls, Luna casts her string to rip all of their skulls off. She wonders if the sharpness of her strings have increased because of training with him. He was beautiful, she thought, but she's lived her entire life as an assassin. If only she'd met Yuya sooner, she wonders how everything could have changed. But she's a professional assassin, a member of the Dark Guild and known as the Headhunter. After fishing for hours, Rin sees the amount of fish Yuya caught with his hand, and she asks him what else those hands can do. He tries to ignore what she just said, but wonders why Akira is laying down like he's ready for plot development. Akira screams that Rin has been slaving him and being so cruel. He'd been worked to the bone, climbing up mountains and testing mushrooms for poison, even being used as a decoy to lure bears away. Thinking that he might be poisoned, Yuya runs towards Akira and investigates his status, discovering he's been bestowed with the Attention Whore special title. He pats Akira on the back and tells him to not be so reckless, and Akira thinks he definitely wants to swing the other way. Back at the tent, Yuya sees all the food they've managed to gather and scans all of it to remove the dangerous items. He wonders who's going to be cooking it, but since none of them have made anything in their life, he decides to bring the food back to the teachers for now. Inside the food inspection area, he finds Kaori for the first time on this trip and asks her how things are going. She tells him it's been fun and opens her mouth while looking up at him, and leaves after her group calls her over. The teacher investigates their food and says they did a perfect job. It's the first time any team's ever gathered this much food, and for all of it to be edible, she thinks her bonus will definitely be increased. However, she tells them not to relax yet, because one of them needs to cook the food, so when she asks them who that person will be, all of them point to Yuya. She begs him to do his best because everything's riding on him, and if he manages to get her the bonus, she'll be riding him too. In the camp's kitchen, Yuya gracefully cuts all of the food up and fries the fish, creating a delicious dinner for all of them. But after they all ate his food, none of them responded. The teacher notices Yuya's food after drinking PG grape juice and asks him for a taste. She takes a bite but freezes in time, and Yuya wonders if his food paralyzed all of them. However, they scream that his food is incredible. It's the best food they've ever eaten in their life, and the teacher thinks that he's managed to cook foods better than the 5-star chefs at the hotel. Hearing all those kind words makes Yuya happy. Throughout all this time, he'd been eating all of his meals alone, but seeing that his food brings joy to people makes him happy. After eating all the food, the teacher asks him if he would like to marry her. Everyone wonders what the f she just said, but she goes on to say that she's a slob who can't even cook or do laundry. And because of her work, she hasn't had a single relationship her entire life, so even though her bonus and job is on the line, she's willing to give up everything so she can marry him. All the students think the grape juice is destroying her mind, but she clings onto him and the girls tell Sawada that she's too ugly for him. Kaede tries to tell her that Yuya is the most useless, ugly, fat, disgusting loser on the planet.
Emotional damage!
Still, Ms. Sawada doesn't care, saying she'll wait however long it takes. But everyone tells her that a useless person like her shouldn't be ruining Yuya's future. Their words start making her tear up, and Yuya tries to talk her out of it, but she jumps up and hugs him to her plot. Kaede tries using her plot to drag him away, and all the guys wish they were the ones experiencing this intense plot battle. Even Akira wishes he could have some teacher plot. But poor Yuya passes out from suffocating in the heavenly pillows. They pull him out, and Rin asks him if he saw paradise, but Yuya saw and felt more than that. He felt the Sanzu River gushing underneath. Back at home, Knight stares at the sky when Yuya's teleportation circle appears. He jumps to hug Yuya and is excited to be reunited with him. Yuya gives him some of the food he's been storing away, and is glad to see Knight eating it. Seeing people enjoy his cooking has made him realize how happy it makes him, and tells Knight goodbye since their bath time is about to start. In the changing room, every single guy realizes they're growing, and Yuya wonders why they're all staring at him, struggling to breathe. Akira says that his body is outrageous and is giving him all kinds of mixed emotions. Not only does he have a hot face, but he's more ripped than Giga Chad, so he wonders how he's ever supposed to compete. Meanwhile, in the girls' changing room, Kaede's plot has taken 75% of the show's budget, and Rin starts playing with them to spend the other 25%. She tries screaming for the other girls to save her, but Kaori thinks it's unfair how her plot is taking the entire show's budget. Even then, Kaede thinks she's not the worst because Ms. Sawada has the biggest plot and is trying to marry Yuya. Kaori wonders if her plot will ever be able to satisfy Yuya. The next morning, Akira is crushed after seeing all of his vegetables and hard work destroyed. The girls head off to gather food before starving, but realize that Akira is sweating. He tries to play it off cool and runs towards them, hiding the fact that he saw a bear's foot. They begin looking for plants to make into breakfast, but Yuya notices Akira frozen in shock. The tree before him is filled with bear claws, and all of the other trees seem to have been mauled down. As soon as he's realized what it could be, a giant figure appears before the girls and begins chasing them all away. The giant bear enters the camp and destroys every single one of the tents. Ms. Sawada tries to help them take cover behind one of the lunch tables, which stops the bear temporarily. They begin running towards the shelter, but as they ran, Ms. Sawada tripped and fell. The bear approached her and was ready to strike her down, but before it could reach her face, Yuya held off the bear's arm, using his professional UFC moves to wrestle the bear like a Russian. He picked the bear up and suplexed it onto the ground, shocking every one of the students. Yuya asks her if she's alright, and she tells him that she's okay. Normally, she'd be lecturing him about fighting a bear, but since he protected her, she won't punish him, and instead offers her body as a reward. While they waited for the FBI to arrive, they wondered what to do about restraining the bear, but the creepy nurse suggested using her medicine, and Kaori came running in. Her idea was to tie up the bear and have him act as a guard dog, and if he was to ever attack again, they can enjoy him as a tasty lunch. This was the way they dealt with the bear, and so their off-campus trip came to an end. Back at his house, it was finally the day to meet the king, so Yuya tried to clear out the princess's path before the monsters approached her. Using his lance, Yuya ambushed the ogres with Knight and threw his spear towards their leader, but he managed to cast it away. Yuya evaded the attack and summoned a giant hammer, crushing the ogre standing in his way. One of the items dropped was a rare helmet, and a rabbit spied on Yuya while he tried it on. The princess's carriage was approaching, but Knight was apprehensive once again. As they got closer, Yuya took off his helmet to reveal that it was him. The guards were about to escort him back to the king, and saluted him along with the princess for coming along with them. Knight still felt like something was off, and jumped towards Lexia to push her out of the way. The tree above Yuya begins collapsing, and in an instant, Yuya chopped it down. He noticed the strings were the ones that Luna used. Yuya asked Knight if he knows the assassin's location, and Luna is angry that her attack managed to miss. However, Yuya knocked her out while he's invisible, and saw her mask falling off, realizing it was actually Luna all this time. Lexia came running and asked him if he knows this girl, and Yuya tells her that he did know her. He thanks Knight for trying to protect his feelings by hiding her identity, and apologizes to Lexia because he wants to treat her injuries back at his home. He can't imagine her being a bad person, and wants to talk to her one last time. Lexia says it's fine, and the guards come running towards her. She tells them that she's going to be home alone with Yuya, and teleports away with her to his home. Poor guards can't get a break. Back at his home, Yuya wonders what could have caused Luna to act this way. After explaining his relationship with Luna, Lexia wonders what magic he used to move them from the mountains to his home in an instant. Yuya tells her that he created his own type of magic called teleportation, and she gets angry with him. In this world, teleportation magic exists only in fairy tales, so if anyone discovers that he can use it, it will destroy all of society and lead to war. So to make sure their society doesn't collapse, Lexia makes him swear that he won't use it in front of anyone. Yuya agrees, and she thinks that she should expect these things from him, but wonders how much longer Luna's going to pretend to be asleep. Luna gets up, and Lexia tells her she's noticed since the start, and is sure Yuya also pretended not to notice out of kindness. Lexia tries asking her about her background, and Yuya tells her that he also wants to know why she tried to do this. She tells them it's not a very interesting tale. As a child, she was a homeless orphan who scavenged through garbage and stole from others to survive. It was all she could do to keep living. But one day, a mysterious man came up to her and decided to take her in. Not only did he teach her how to read, but he also taught her the means of survival. Most of those techniques were training her to become an assassin like him. Lexia wonders if he was someone from the Dark Guild, the infamous guild that specializes in thievery and assassination. Luna says she eventually joined the guild and completed countless assassinations until she was given the title Headhunter. After all this time, Yuya finally realizes why Knight has been apprehensive. Luna goes on to reveal that she received a certain assignment the other day, the elimination of the first princess. This is how they ended up here, and she tells Lexia to do whatever she wants. The moment she attacked the princess, her execution was assured, because even if she failed, the Dark Guild will dispatch assassins to end her, so she's going to die no matter what. She wonders why Yuya would care. They only spent a few days training together anyway. But Yuya tells her to shut up. He says that it's true that they barely spent any time together, but he enjoyed all of it and still thinks of her as a friend, so he wants her to stop saying such sad things. Lexia interrupts and tells her to stop assuming that she's going to die. Luna asks if she's planning on letting her get away, but Lexia says that she's going to become her servant. From now on, Luna will become Lexia's personal guard, and they will keep her assassination a secret. And as a princess's guard, even the Dark Guild won't be able to reach her. Luna thinks that a person who's ended countless people's lives with her disgusting hands doesn't deserve to be next to a shining light like Lexia. As she gets on her knees, Lexia grabs Luna's hands and tells her they are beautiful, wondering how she gets them to be so soft. Luna tells her that it's not because she was constantly bathing with Yuya or anything. Lexia tells her to shut up already. Since she wasn't able to assassinate her, Lexia is now the victor, so she has to obey everything that Lexia commands and tells her to become her servant. Meanwhile, the poor guards are running for their lives. Luna thinks that Lexia is a tyrannical princess, but she pledges that she will obey her. After obeying her first command, Lexia tells her to explain what she was saying about Yuya's bath. Luna tells her to listen and be amazed, because Yuya has a bath drop item that not only recovers fatigue, but also recovers magic and restores youth. Lexia thinks it's not fair that she's been getting to experience this, and begs Yuya to use it as well. She tells Luna that they're going to be doing it together, and asks Yuya if he wants to join. But Yuya remains a typical anime virgin and rejects.
It should have been me, not him! It's not fair!
While bathing together, Lexia asks if Luna has feelings for Yuya, but she falls in the water and says that they are just friends. She doesn't buy her lies because she's noticed her affectionate stares toward Yuya, but Luna tells her that she's just imagining things. Lexia thinks it wouldn't be a problem if she married Yuya in that case, but Luna tells her that she can't be doing that, and realizes that she just sold herself out. She says that if they were just friends, it wouldn't be a problem, and Luna realizes her true emotions have been uncovered. While she thinks he may be desirable as a training partner, she doesn't know how she feels about him beyond that. Hearing her confession, Lexia decides to declare war. Even if Luna doesn't realize it, those feelings are definitely love, and since Lexia is also in love with him, this will now be a battle. She asks her if she will just admit defeat and give up, but Luna strengthens her resolve and screams that Yuya will be hers. She accepts her declaration of war and is prepared to win this battle. After the bath, Yuya prepares to get dinner ready, but Lexia tells him that she will be the one preparing dinner. At the kitchen table, Lexia tried cutting the potato and realized how difficult it is to cut it up. Yuya wonders what nutcase slashes a knife like they're trying to fight a goblin. But Lexia puts all of her power into a slash, and nearly ends Yuya and Luna. Knowing she'd be useless, Yuya prepared dinner for both of them, and they both ate his meat.
Fucking hell.
Lexia ran to hug Yuya's arm, but Luna wasn't going to allow her to win, so she asked him to feed her his meat. After getting injured, she's no longer able to feed herself, so she opened her mouth and was prepared for his long meaty stick to enter. Yuya fed her his meat, and Luna smirked at Lexia because her head game was better. Lexia begs Yuya to feed her as well, so she opens her mouth wide for his meat and tastes the white sticky sour cream. He thinks he's had enough, but the girls tell him that he's going to be tasting his own meat now.
Not gonna lie, that shit made me hard.
What? What the f?
At night, they sleep together and Yuya stays up, thinking that today was very exhausting. In the morning, Yuya brings the girls to the guards and apologizes that they were separated. Owen accepts his apology and is grateful that he was able to protect them yesterday. Owen wonders who the girl behind him is, and Lexia reveals that she's Luna, the girl who tried assassinating her. Luna realizes this bitch only thinks about Yuya's meat, and all the guards point their swords at her. Lexia commands them to stop, saying that if she really wanted to assassinate her, she would be able to take all of them down. Luna thinks this bitch really only does think of Yuya's meat. Owen is still suspicious of her, thinking that she's doing all of this to assassinate Lexia. But Lexia says that Luna could have just assassinated her last night while they slept together. Owen wonders if his ears heard that right, and Lexia goes on to tell him that they slept together with Yuya. After hearing that, Owen's given up with this bullshit job at this point, and decides that they'll just be careful around Luna. But Yuya has another thing he wants to add. With his school starting again tomorrow, he tells Owen that he won't be able to make it to the palace, and Owen starts hysterically laughing because he's about to have a heart attack. The guard tells him that he can make it to the capital whenever is convenient for him on this path. Luna bids him goodbye, and Lexia tells him that she's going to see him in her bedroom next time. But upon hearing that, Luna got off the horse and ran towards Yuya, kissing him on the cheek. This is her way of thanking him, and tells him that this is her declaration of war. Lexia begs Owen to stop the carriage, but the poor man's gone hysterical after dealing with all her bullshit. The following morning, Yuya discovers a peaceful pond next to his house and wonders why Luna kissed him. However, he decides to ignore it because he wants to have some bath plot development with Knight. As they bathed together, Inosuke's cousin decided to join them, and the system tamed him right away. He appraises the stats of the little boar, and notices that it's level 490, and possesses the Holy Ground special skill. Wondering what it does, he asks the animal to activate it, and a magical dome begins appearing around them. Yuya's whole body feels lighter, and he thinks that he's pretty amazing. He picks him up and decides to give him a name. Since his skin looks like the color of a sunrise, he decides to name him Akatsuki, or Japanese for dawn. He notices that Knight's disappeared, and Knight comes back with a watch letting him know that he's about to be late for school. When the bells rang, Yuya had barely managed to make it to class, and the teacher introduces today's new competition. They will be competing with balls, and the results will affect her bonus, so she begs them to fight like their life depended on it. The first game they will be playing is soccer, and Yuya takes his position as keeper. The teacher begins the match, and Ryo manages to get past the opponents with ease and score a goal right off the bat. Rin wonders how she could help them advance their lead, so she asks Kaede to start jumping a little. With a few hops, all the men have been distracted, and Rin decides to come in for round 2 of plot development. In what school does this type of shit happen? Just asking for a friend. Everyone's been distracted, but Akira only cares about Yuya's plot, so he runs off with the ball, and Rin realizes her plans backfired. He rushes forward and shoots a curveball, but Yuya's graduated from off-brand Blue Lock, so he saves the shot at such speed that everyone thinks he teleported. Ryo tells him to throw the ball as far and as hard as he can, so Yuya prepares all of his power and sends a strike straight into the enemy's net. He wonders if that counts as a point, but all the people are shocked that this is what he's really worried about. With the ball tournament approaching, a limousine was waiting for Yuya after school, and a man handed him an invitation to join the entertainment industry. The Chad rejects, and the woman is shocked that a teenager would really reject the offer to join the entertainment industry. But Yuya humbly says that he's enjoying his high school life more than anything right now, and thanks them for the offer. However, the manager screams at her assistant for not securing Yuya for her new job. Yu walks out of the car, and his friends are shocked he knows the hottest model. The assistant shows them this month's magazine, and they see Yuya sitting next to Mew, wondering when he ever did this. The manager tells her to hurry up and suck him. A flyer comes flying by. I guess that's why they're called flyers, and the manager lays her eyes on it. She grabs one and sees the ball sports competition, thinking she has a great idea. If she could infiltrate the super prestigious academy and catch Yuya playing with balls, she will create the next bestseller. And with this, they will be able to take all the photos of him without his consent. Before leaving, Mew flashes her tit. Her glasses. I meant her glasses. Deep inside the forest, Knight casts his waterfall spell, and Yuya launches to slash down at the skeleton. The skull prepares one final attack, but Yuya ends the battle with his sword. Even with all this training, he still feels like his fluidity in switching between physical and magical attacks is lackluster. He wonders if he'll ever be able to get stronger, and thinks he'll try heading deeper into the forest for tonight. As they walk together, Yuya noticed the hard black logs, or as we call them, BBCs. He tells his companions to be careful, but wonders when Akatsuki ever got so big. After seeing the real Akatsuki, the giant boar crushes Yuya's core and sends him launching towards the tree. He yells at his companions to stay back, and sees that it's a level 10 mithril boar. He tries reaching for a healing potion, but the boar continues assaulting him without a chance for him to heal his wounds. It charges one final time, but a voice from the dark says that it will help Yuya, and a flash of light kicks the boar away. The source of that strength was a white rabbit, and it tells the boar to disappear before unleashing a magical wave that disperses throughout the entire forest. Yuya notices how all the hard black trees were destroyed, and sees that the rabbit is a level 4 kick rabbit. It tells them to hurry up and show them their kicks, and Akatsuki wants to go first. With all the confidence in the world, it tries to show off its kick, but the rabbit says there's less hope there than me finding a girlfriend.
Emotional damage!
Knight thinks he can do better, and after showing off his kicks, the rabbit thinks there might be some potential there. Finally, Yuya goes on to demonstrate his kick, and the rabbit smiles, thinking there's some talent there. However, it goes on to show him what a proper kick looks like, and sends a ripple of wind that penetrates 4 hard black trees. He tells Yuya to start practicing this new move all night, and after hours of training, he finally takes down a tree with just the wind of his kick. Now that he's finally made some progress, the bunny jumps towards him and begins sparring. As days passed, they continued sparring, but Yuya wondered why they're doing all this training. The bunny reveals that he's chosen Yuya to be his successor. In this world, it's the divine's duty to train the apprentices and pass on their techniques. They are the beings who have mastered their fields and must protect the world from the vile, the negative aspects of this world. Those vials are the physical incarnates of malice that crystallizes, and will do anything to harm innocent lives. Yuya wonders if he could reject becoming a divine visionary. Wait, why does that term sound familiar? Must be all the bamboo I've been taking. The bunny tells him that he could reject the title, but when the equilibrium shifts and battling the vial becomes inevitable, the only way to protect more lives would be by having more allies. And since the bunny can't see the limits of Yuya's talents, he has chosen him to become the next divine successor. Even after hearing that, Yuya says that he would rather not, but wants to protect all the people he's met in this world, so he wishes to continue training. The rabbit was impressed with his determination, and agreed to continue training him, but on the condition that he teaches him magic along the way. The barrier that manages to block the strongest creatures of this world from entering is a miracle of magic, so the bunny begs Yuya to train underneath him. Yuya tells him not to bow, and looks forward for them teaching each other everything they know. Deep in the forest, Yuya runs for his life from a level 3 king mithril boar. This is his chance for revenge, and he tells Yuya that the vial they're going to be fighting are much stronger than this creature. But even though it was much more powerful, Yuya cast his whip in succession with his spear to crush the boar down. After finally defeating the enemy, Knight and Akatsuki run to congratulate him, and Yuya sees all the SS rank items that were just dropped. but they're not the highest ranked items, and the rabbit says there are still triple S rank and X rank items. And beyond those, the vile items are all legend rank, so it isn't possible for him to defeat them alone. The system status appears, telling Yuya that he has reached a critical level where his species can now evolve. This is one of the rarest things for a human, the rabbit explains, but at least there's no change to his appearance. At school, the ball competition is about to begin, and the manager tells Yuya that she's prepared him a very special challenge. A giant man appears, and Yuya thinks that this dude doesn't look like a typical high school student. The assistant recruited this guy after he became the national tournament's champion, and people call him the sniper. After a single serve, he sends the ball flying past Yuya, and Yuya remembers feeling this energy before. But compared to the monsters from the other world, he thinks this guy is nothing. He swings at the ball hard enough to create a hole in the table, and asks to withdraw from the match. Yuya wonders when this show is going to get any budget, so Kaede runs in to finally spend this episode's budget. She begs him to play with her volleyballs. Sorry, I meant play volleyball. And the manager drags the cameraman to the volleyball arena. All the guys think it'll be an easy game now that he's on their team. But once the game began, the show lost 20% more budget. And they also lost an entire gymnasium. The enemy withdraws, and the matches continue being dominated by Yuya's teams. The manager gets angrier, because not only is the show's budget being spent by Kaede, but also their entire camera company's net worth. Yuya sulks in depression, but they hear a man screaming, and see Kaori leaving the match. She runs towards Yuya and begs him to take her teammate's spot in the match. The first responders take his body away, and he tells Yuya to watch out for the serve. The opponents think this is a sad outcome and tell Yuya that he's going to be in that position soon. Kaori serves the ball, but completely f***ing misses. Yuya tells her that it'll be fine with her second serve, but the bitch is out to f***ing kill someone. Yuya finally realizes which server he actually has to be careful of. The enemy team gets the chance to serve, and the ball nearly flies out of bounds, but Yuya sends it back to the enemy court and continues countering all of their attacks. He jumps high in the sky to keep the ball in the play, and Kaori thinks that she will finally be useful. How the fuck does it fly behind her? Yuya manages to secure their victory, and he stops Kaori from falling down. The manager secures all the photos she's needed. After the match, Yuya finds Kaori standing next to a pole, and she asks him if she could ride his pole. Sorry, I meant she asks him to come over because he saved her once again, so she wants to do something to thank him. Yuya tells her that she doesn't need to do anything, because just being with her makes him happy. She wonders what he just said, and asks him to close his eyes as she ran up to him. She got closer, and Yuya thought this was the nicest smell he ever felt. He asks her what she just did, but she tells him that it's a secret. Inside the forest at night, the rabbit narrowly holds off and casts magic to attack the vial in front of him. She wonders how a Usagi is able to use magic, but he reveals that he's still just learning under Yuya. After acquiring the new information, the vial revises the target for elimination, giving Yuya the threat level of great for being the master of a divine. The energy disperses from the vial's body and tells him that she will kill Yuya first. The bunny realizes her powers outclass his in every single way, so he needs to teach Yuya everything before his life is put in danger. Kaori was home alone with Yuya, and the poor man struggled to write because the only ink he wanted to release was the one from his pen onto her face. A few days ago, their final exams were coming up, but Yuya was feeling overwhelmed because he had always struggled with math. Kaori realized she had a genius idea, so she asked him if she would be able to come over and study at his house. That's how she ended up here. But after studying for a while, she got up and asked Yuya to use the bathroom. As she walked into the other room, Yuya felt nervous because it was his first time ever having a girl over, but realized that she didn't know where the bathroom was. On the other side of the door, she had discovered the entrance to the other world, and Yuya ran to call out for her. She apologized for not knowing where the bathroom was, but felt like something was calling her to this room. After he heard those words, Yuya decided to reveal the truth about his door, saying it was connected to another world. He tried asking her to put her hand up to the door, but she was unable to cross through. After he saw the barrier's reaction, he'd finally clogged the plot hole of other strangers entering the world. But he still needed to clog Kaori's plot hole. She wondered what he meant by another world, so Yuya explained that it's a world where magic and super abilities exist, and went on to show her the water magic he'd learned. With these powers, he was able to save her all those times when he defeated the delinquents and rescued her from the burning building. Kaori finally realizes that it was strange how he could do all that, so Yuya extended his arm and asked her if she would like to see the other world. On the other side, Kaori saw the flying birds and all the unique plants that never grew on Earth. He went on to explain that Night is a black Fenrir and Akatsuki is from the Maojo species, something similar to the pig family. As she got up, Kaori's status system appeared, and Yuya explained that it measured her various abilities. He noticed that all of her stats were 10 times higher than when he first started out. During his first day here, he was at the very bottom of the barrel, but after he leveled himself up, he lost weight, gained muscle, and transformed his entire appearance. It was as if he'd unlocked a cheat skill, because his past self was a person most people wouldn't accept. Kaori doesn't want to be reminded of him being an ugly, fat, disgusting.
Oh shit, here we go again.
Kaori only wants to see more of this world, but Yuya says it would be too dangerous for them to explore today with all the monsters surrounding them in the forest. She begs him to promise that he will adventure with her some other time, so Yuya promised her that he would. He asked her if they could keep this a secret between them two, and Kaori promised that she would never let anyone else know. After all, this special secret between them would make it as if they had a special relationship. While he walked away, Kaori was glad that she was getting closer to Yuya. Meanwhile, the manager looks at the photos they took of Yuya from the other day, and she thinks he'll become a valuable individual that all the agencies seek. But once they remove all the obstacles from his way, she'll make sure that he's exclusively theirs. At the royal castle, the king is glad to see his daughter, but wants to know why the man in the forest didn't appear today. Owen apologizes because a lot came up, and the king wonders if this new girl had anything to do with the situation. Luna reveals that she was about to assassinate Lexia, which interrupted Yuya's schedule. The king heard those words and wondered how she's alive after failing her mission. So on behalf of her client, the king grabbed his sword and promised to bring her death. He leaped towards her in an instant, but the king was unable to get any closer. He was shocked that she managed to stop his attack in an instant, and Luna reveals that she knew his legendary sword would cut through her regardless of her defenses, so she restrained his arms from moving. Luna screams at her father and says that she hates him when he acts this way. It was her decision to make Luna her bodyguard, so she tells him to respect her decision. But the king has been sent to a different realm after hearing the words she hates him. He tells his daughter that he understands and commands Luna to become his daughter's bodyguard. After she released him, the king realized he really couldn't stand his own daughter hating him, so he asked Owen to learn more about Luna's background. Owen revealed that she was from the Dark Guild, the infamous headhunter. After Yuya managed to catch her, he made Luna and Lexia spend the night at his house. The king wonders if his ears heard those words right, and didn't expect that his daughter would stay at another man's house, so he slashes his chair. While he might have saved Lexia, he will become his sword's next victim, and screams in agony when he wonders what they could have done that night. Inside the Dark Guild's tavern, their leader learns of Luna's failure to assassinate Lexia, and hears about the news of the headhunter being taken hostage into the castle. When he heard those words, the man thought it was time for Lexia and the king to disappear. It's only a matter of time before he's king, the man explains, so he's going to reveal his trump card, a magic sealing barrier. With this item, they will infiltrate the castle, and it will prevent any magicians from defending the king. And if things took a turn for the worse, they'll just blame it all on Yuya. A week later, Aosei Academy went on a 3-day break, so Yuya was planning on using this break to meet with the king. With his void bow, he eliminated a rare sheep, and among the rare drops, he saw the paradise bed. After traveling for hours, Yuya finally reached his first city in this world, and saw all the beast women with tails. It finally felt real to him that he was in another world, but he needed to make some money first. Inside the Pawn Star's shop, the merchant saw his appearance and thought he was an upper-class noble, but Yuya tried to say he's just a regular person. The man asked him what he was trying to trade, and was shocked when he saw Yuya's item box. From inside of it, Yuya took out a bunch of spices, but the man was surprised to see such exquisite glasses on the table. The trader has dealt with a lot of different products over the years, but this is the first time he's seen such high-quality products, so he offers to buy it for 100 gold coins. Yuya wonders how much the coins are worth, and the merchant realizes he just missed out on the greatest crypto scam opportunity of his life. He reveals that in this country, 5 of these coins would allow a family of 4 to live a wealthy life for a year. After leaving, he gives him a guild card so he can be identified in this country, and looks forward to doing business with him again in the future. At night, Yuya continued traveling towards the royal capital, and by the morning, he had finally made it there. Akatsuki tried pointing him towards the castle, and when he made it there, Owen walked him around, saying they will be entering the audience room. Hearing those words, Yuya was shocked that he will be meeting the king because he hadn't prepared any clothes. But Owen comforts him by saying it's just an unofficial audience. They enter the room together, and Yuya sees Lexia and Luna standing next to each other. He bows to the king, but the king tells him to raise his head, and asks him if he was the man who saved Lexia. But he doesn't care if he actually saved her, and screams that he will eliminate the bastard who seduced his daughter. Owen tries calming him down, but the king promises to also execute Owen for his insubordination. After they continue screaming at each other, the king introduces himself as Arnold, so Yuya tries introducing himself back. But the king is displeased with how he didn't bring a present for Lexia. Yuya apologizes because it didn't cross his mind, but thinks he has the perfect gift for Lexia, and takes out the paradise bed from the void box. Lexia loves how bold he is, and the king approaches him. He asks if he's going to bring his daughter to a world of paradise and plot development. For his insolence of trying to seduce his daughter in front of him, the king was ready to execute him. But Owen tried stopping him, saying Yuya probably didn't know the customs of their country. In this nation, giving a bed to a woman is the equivalent of a marriage proposal, and Lexia is excited to feel Yuya's Excalibur penetrating her defenses. The king promises that Yuya will become this sword's rust, and as he rushes to slash towards him, a group of assassins circulate around them. The king commands the guards to fire, but the assassin activates the magic ceiling barrier to nullify their attacks. They begin trying to attack the royal family, but Owen and Lexia hold a few of them off. Yuya rushes with Akatsuki and Knight to fight off the enemy, neutralizing all of them with a few kicks. The assassin leader tries slashing towards Yuya, but he delivers a gut punch to knock him down. Lexia runs to hug him and wants to know what else those hands can do. Luna reminds him that he's getting awfully bold, and sees the king pointing his sword towards him. After they'd restrained all the assassins, Owen discovers a crest among them. It was the Riger crest, the one Lexia's brother carries. Because of the circumstance, Owen begs Yuya to lend them his support, because their entire country is in danger. Watch this next video. Till next time, my fellow legendary plot masters.